This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
It's not easy going it alone, but if you keep going, stay true to yourself. It will be worth it in the end. The hardest walk you can make is the walk you make alone, but that is the walk that makes you the strongest. That is the walk that builds your character the most. To all of you fighting battles alone, to all of you going against the grain, battling the naysayers, stay strong. Keep going. Stay strong. Keep going. Valeria Teles interviews Patricia Love, the author of Seen and Unheard, A Little Girl's Journey from Silence to Empowerment. Patricia Love is a women's empowerment coach and practitioner of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, and Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT. By combining these practices along with her own personal experience in overcoming real-life challenges and trauma, she's spent the last 2 decades inspiring and empowering women and girls of all ages to be brave with their story and use their voice for good. While Patricia grew up feeling silenced and misunderstood, she was able to use those experiences as fuel to light her inner fire and make a positive difference in the world around her. She's an advocate for women's voices through her Healing Hoodies mission. Meet Patricia at patricialove.com. Here is the interview with Patricia Love.
In your own words, who is Patricia Love?
Patricia Love. Who am I? I am a woman of maturity that continues on this journey, and I hope to continue this journey till my last breath. That's who I am right now.
When you say journey, are you referring to this, what we call life?
Yes, yes, life. I just look at life and every single day as a journey, as a path, as an adventure. And I look forward to like every single moment these days because I find that the days are precious. And so for me, it's just a journey of adventure every single day because I think it's important, and I love getting up in the day, and I love being here.
Yes, I love that idea. Yeah, this concept of seeing life in such a way. Some people call it wisdom. I see truth in that. Being mentally healthy. What is the meaning of that to you, Patricia? What is to be mentally healthy?
For me, it's having mind health, you might say. Mind health and keeping my mind fit. It's important to me, especially as I've matured and grown older and understood more of this, that I wanted to blend not only my mind fitness, but my body fitness together because it really works together. So for me, it's being healthy of mind. It's being clear of mind. It's being focused of mind. It's treating my mind as a very special muscle, a special organ that I can make sure that it's at its capacity. Because to me, growing and learning constantly really helps my mind stay fit.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about this? Some examples it might help. This clarity of mind, having a healthy mind. What does it look like?
What it looks like to me, and it sometimes looks different to everybody, but for me, it's being able to focus and not be cluttered. A lot of times our mind is cluttered, and I believe that's from being overwhelmed with everything that's going on in life and being kind of on that hamster wheel of social media and just everyday life. And so it just gets muddled. And when your mind is muddled, it's hard to be clear and to focus on what you want, what your family wants, and just, who you really are. Because I think so many people go through life not really knowing who they are, or because they can't get off the hamster wheel, because they don't really how to do that. And so that to me is mind fitness, is getting off that hamster wheel and being able to be present and focus.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the idea of inner peace and having this clarity, which has a lot to do with being calm, relaxed, and being able to see the choices we have with clarity, because it's really tough to see choices, right, Patricia?
Exactly. When you're not clear, it's hard to see anything.
Right.
It's like you're in a fog, and you're kind of going through life on a foggy day. If you want to, have that represent that, it's just like, whereas on a sunny day, sometimes you feel clearer, you feel better because of the sunshine and the stuff. Well, I want that to be every single day. And for me, and I think for other people too, and a lot of women that I coach, they want to have that clarity. And because it does, as you said earlier, it does bring it down to inner peace. When you are clear and you kind of have peace, or know what you want, and you're present, you start to feel more peaceful, which is, I think, what we all truly, truly want.
And one of the measurements I have found when we are there, let's say, if there is a destination for inner peace, is when we actually have no regrets. We could actually lose the body at any moment, die at any moment, and that's okay. That would be okay, right?
Yes. And that's what I look at each day as the first day of the rest of my life, because I really don't know if I will have tomorrow. Tomorrow is a luxury in so many ways. I don't know if it'll be here, and so I want to live it today, and as much as possible. I'm human. I make mistakes. I keep learning. I keep growing, but my goal is to really be as present as possible, so that I can flow and take in today's beauty, and not worry about tomorrow so much, because those are expectations that may not even happen. I don't even know. So sometimes we kind of make our worries part of our life, which are just expectations a lot of times, and we create our own stress a lot of times. So inner peace is, I think, what I know I look for. And that's abundance to me in so many ways.
Yes, you do talk about this in your book. Let me see here. You changed the name, quietation, I think you call it. I'm not sure if you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Yes. Being quiet.
Yes. I had to change that, because I found when I would speak to people about meditation, that their eyes would go big and like, oh my God, do I need to become a monk? I don't know how to meditate. I can't meditate. And in reality, all the meditation is quietation, is being quiet.
Yes.
And so when I was able to kind of use that words with people, they start to understand, like, oh, I just need to be quiet within myself and not worry about, seeing and getting clarity immediately, because it doesn't happen. It takes time. And then pretty soon I found that more people wanted to be quiet for longer periods of time. So I called it quietation.
Yeah, it's going back to simplicity, isn't it? And you talk about the power of words, and true. So by simplifying, then, we can kind of deliver the message in a more direct and clear way. So I see that you're trying to do that. That's beautiful, Patricia.
Yes, I think words are important for not only to what we say to others, but what we say to ourselves. And it's not necessarily for affirmation purposes. I mean, obviously we use them. Affirmations are good words, but you also want to feel those words too. Because when it's like gratitude, people are grateful, but I sense that it's almost become a word that's a normal word, like, oh, I'm grateful. When in reality, are you really grateful? I mean, you want to get deep and feel that gratefulness. Is when you feel that, that's when your energy starts to flow better and open up, because you truly are feeling the gratefulness and not just acting out the word.
So another one word that comes to mind is love. That's another one that's misused, misinterpreted. So what is your understanding of the word love, Patricia?
Well, you'd think with my last name that I'd have
Yes.
really good, word or understanding of this word, but I had to learn the understanding of it. And love to me is an emotion, obviously, and it's one of the deepest emotions that you can feel. It can be a love for a person or a love for a flower or a love for an animal that's basically unconditional. And I think I would use that word unconditional with love, because love to me, if you truly love and care about something or somebody, then it's unconditional.
That's how I usually use the word love. Yeah, unconditional first, coming first. And that a lot of times not too often, but I have asked the question about if it is possible to love unconditionally from a conditioned mind, conditioned state of being, which we are now.
That is true. That is true. I mean, and I think you also you tend to learn to do this if if you're open to love and open to conditional or unconditional and understanding what the differences of it. I find that a lot of people just go into love just thinking love is love.
Talk to me for a moment about the damage and the danger, really, of thinking in such a way that life is perfect or we are supposed to be perfect somehow.
Yes, it's a dangerous word. It's a word that I think people should remove, to be honest, from the vocabulary, because there is no perfection. No matter what you do, how hard you try, there is no perfection. And too many people these days want to appear that they're perfect, but then they're wearing a mask, then they're covering something up, then they're not being themselves. But people are always, because that word is used so much, and people think that perfection is everything, that people actually clamor to things that appear to be perfect, and when in reality they're not perfect at all. But people get caught up in it, and then it's like being put on a pedestal. And when you fall from that pedestal or even slip, that perfection, there's no perfection, because you are just imperfect, because that's what we are, and that's what life is imperfect.
Yeah, but at the same time, so beautiful and imperfect at the same time. It kind of makes me think about nature. Every time I think about this idea of perfectionism or even perfect, I think about nature. Look at how wonderful it is. So imperfect in many ways, but so perfect at the same time.
Well, exactly. It's imperfectly perfect. I mean, and that's what makes everything so beautiful, if you can relate to it in that way, because nature or animals or people, and actually, I always like to look at the imperfections or the scars as perfect. And if you want to use that word, because that's what beauty of people are, and the beauty of life is all the imperfections. If everything was completely perfect and nothing was different, well, then it would be boring. And there'd be nothing there wouldn't be any goals. Everybody would be perfect. Everybody you'd become a Stepford wife. So,
Yeah.
in a Stepford world.
So true. And that's interesting that you mentioned the word different. So, and maybe that's what it is. Most of us have these ideas of what life should be. And then that's perception, personal perceptions. And then we hold down to them. And anything that's different, we tend to reject them.
That is so true. You said the word perception, and one of my favorite quotes is by Wayne Dyer, and it says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's just a perception of how you look at things. You could look at a flower from the top to down and see its petals and the beauty of the inside of it, but yet you forget to look at the bot, maybe lay on the ground and look at the flower from the dirt up and see how it grows, and just learning and understanding it in a different way, rather than just seeing the petals, see how it grows from underneath. So it's a very interesting quote, which I really kind of live by in this day, is when things get hard or things get tough out there. I like to see, okay, how can I change my perception? How can I look at things differently? How can I shift? How can I pivot?
What is healing to you, and what are some of the misconceptions about healing?
Healing to me is being whole in a way that feels good to me. And I say that because everybody's feeling of healing can be a slightly different. The way I grew up and the lot of trauma that I had, there can be physical healing and there can be mental healing. And to me, it is a wholeness, but yet not so perfect that I don't continue to heal. Because I believe that we need to always continue to heal, because there's always things and learn that I need to learn every single day and being comfortable with. And healing is one of those. And I want to also say, I like giving myself grace and realizing that maybe I'm not completely healed, because that would be too perfect. Because if you've had a lifetime of trauma or behaviors and you think you can be healed in a minute, it's very difficult. So healing is a continual moving towards wholeness.
I love that word too, wholeness, which means no separation, which implies in a way that we're already healed. There's nothing to be healed, really.
And that is true. Yes. It is really more of we are healed. We are good enough. We are perfect as we are. There are things that we may want to, and that's why words are so important. It may be just healing within myself or other people, so that they feel at inner peace. And I think that's what's important regarding around the word healing, because healing is just inner peace where you actually feel good about who you are and not triggered by things that create for better words, an ickiness in you. So it's a very broad word, and it can mean many things to many different people. And I think every individual needs to look at what their healing is about and how they feel when they are, or if they need healing. I think we all need some healing in some sorts, because again, it's not a perfect world, but it's maybe more mental than physical. It's always difficult to see.
Yes, true. Especially when it comes to perception. Yeah, there's a lot to be healed there.
Yeah, perception is the main key here, because everybody, again, we're all different, right? Every one of us is different. And that's also beautiful. And embracing those differences is great. And so just understanding that everybody might have a different perception, and that perception is not necessarily wrong. It's just not maybe what you think, but it's certainly maybe what they think. And so that's, again, what's the beauty of all of our differences, and being inclusive and appreciating the differences that we have and embracing them.
Yes, Patricia. Yes, 1,000 times yes. And my last question to you, the warm-up question, is about the purpose of the human experience. What do you think that is?
The purpose of the human experience, being present. I think it's very simple. It's the human experience is being present, so you can see and feel as much as you can in the moment, because there's so many things that we miss. And so I'm just going to keep it simple and leave it at that. It's being present.
Yeah, it resonates. True. So true. Yes.
Well, it's things that I've had to learn also. This didn't heal and come easily to myself, but it's something that I've learned and I keep practicing and continue to move forward with every single day. Because again, we're not perfect. And so I'm constantly learning, and every day I get a little wiser, or every minute.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder, because that's what it is really. We need to be reminded. A lot of us might even know these things, but it's interesting how we tend to forget them so easily.
It's so easy to forget things. And I actually encourage all kinds of clients of mine and people in general and friends to actually put things on notes that maybe you've accomplished or you're grateful for, and put them in a jar. Because sometimes when you forget, you can pull out that accomplishment or that what you were grateful for and go, oh my God, that's so right. Because we forget of all the wonderful things that we have learned.
So you wrote the book, Seen and Unheard, A Little Girl's Journey from Silence to Empowerment. 2 initial questions. How did you become a writer? And what was the main inspiration and intention of writing your book?
I've actually been writing, doing poems, doing kind of lyrics and keeping them to myself all my life. And it's funny, I pulled some out that I've actually put away and like, oh my gosh, look at me. I did do that. I did do this. But this particular book was something that was inside of me for quite a while. And I felt I needed to write it for continued growth, for continued vulnerability, to help other women that maybe have had some similar stories like mine, or can reflect on my stories that makes them think about their own lives. And that was my intention, is to create really also a platform to motivate women and girls to realize that their voice needs to be heard because they matter, and they never should be marginalized or dismissed or overlooked.
Do you feel that women need this message more than men, or we both need to be reminded?
Well, we both need it, I think, in different ways. Right. Women need it because it's the way in most cases we've been brought up to have a lesser voice. And so in general, I think men need to be educated on that because they were brought up the way they understand. And so they do things what they learned. We learn what we live. And so, if you're brought up with encouragement, inspiration, and equality, then life is a little bit easier. But a lot of us are not. And so I think it's good for both men and women, but women especially, because their voice needs to get stronger. And it's really a lot about it's an inner voice. And when I say a voice needs of strength, it's more of an inner voice of strength, building your confidence, feeling good about yourself, feeling that you are capable of doing anything and equal to any other person out there, that you are smart enough and good enough and worth everything.
Sounds like the definition of empowerment.
Exactly. There you go. And empowering themselves, not needing anybody else to empower them, but empowering themselves, which is the beginning of the healing process within, if that's just what you want to do.
The question that comes to mind is, at this time, do you feel that this the man's world idea is changing? Are we evolving somehow? Oh, not yet.
Not
interesting.
Enough. Not enough. I was hoping, because of my age, that 50 years ago, that the starting of the burning of the bra, you might say, and the equality for women that we would be a lot further than we are. But growing up in a man's world and working in real estate and in retail in men's world, I found that it wasn't equal. And we have to work so hard to stand out and be accounted for, that we have a long way to go. And men would play a big part of this if they would see that and say, hey, you are my equal partner, and I want to make sure that you are equal too. So it also would be helpful for men to support us in this growth that where we need to be, because we all are equal, every gender.
Yeah, that's a beautiful vision, Patricia. That would be an amazing thing, because you're right, that's not happening at this time. We still see, and it might be also because that power idea. So they have a lot of power in that sense, where it might be challenging for them to give up that.
It is challenging in them, and that's why it's so difficult, because the ego is playing a big part in that. But if they're taught as young men to respect and show that the equality, and it comes through all of society and social media, and it starts to play in a big way, you'll begin to see the change in men, where they are reaching out and say, no, here's my counterpart needs to get this because she did this, and this. We need their support, because if we can get their support, and it'll start small, but we have to start in baby steps sometimes, because baby steps will get you there also. Just as long as we're moving forward, that's the main key.
I do see that some women have this idea too, that men are supposed to make more money or supposed to do this or that. This idea that we're not equal. I see women around me actually still with these ideas. What are your suggestions, or how are you getting this message out there for those women who are still stuck in a way with those old ways of thinking?
Well, first off, it does start at home. It starts at home, and the father also showing equality to the mother, because again, it's actions. We look at our parents and we follow them in their footsteps, whether we like it or not. We watch them. They are, and the action they take, if they're nice, or they encourage their daughters. For instance, they need to encourage their daughters to be a scientist just as much as a nurse. They need to encourage their sons to be a nurse just as much as a scientist. So it starts at home, but it also comes into play in our schools, where if the bullying and the different things and puts you, you're not good enough, or you're just a girl, you can't do that. So it turns with our words. It starts with the words we use. It starts with how we perceive ourselves. So it really does start in the home, and also within. So there's some men and women that can change now, but it's a long, hard road, because of all of the behaviors that have been placed in you from when you were a young kid. You're seeing it. They started to try to give the doll to the boy, and they do that. But but they still need to show that women are equal, and that really starts at home, encouraging your child to go to college, to go to school, to be this, and and being a mother is fabulous, but also being a scientist too, but also encouraging the father to be a father along with a nurse or a scientist. So it needs to be inclusive on both sides. So it's a hard road. And today we can just reach out and have platforms to promote it and show it, because there's so many, unfortunately, non-equality out there in many different areas that we need to really work on. It's going to be a lifetime.
It sounds to me. I talked to a lot of women about it, and some of them have been doing the work for so many years now, and sometimes they cry. They don't want to leave the body, die before seeing a major change in this reality.
Well, and it's hard, and the only thing they can do is start something within, like if they're in their 40s or 50s, and maybe having a different purpose. Maybe the kids are grown, and take maybe a small part of them and try to show a purpose of something that they have always loved to do. Just doing those things. I find that women have regrets because they said, I did this because I needed to stay home and take care of the kids because my husband or my spouse or my significant other didn't want to, or whatever. When in reality, they need now then to step up and say, okay, but now I have a purpose, and I need to show other women this is what you need to do. Don't be like me. Do this, and change the perspective in women of this age, of 40s, 50s, and 60s and up.
It takes courage, isn't it?
It takes a lot of courage. I've had to do this myself. I didn't change my life till I was like 56 years old.
Yeah, in my case, it was a little younger, but it takes so many years. I was 37 when the journey began to change.
Yes, but it's still a good journey no matter what age.
Yes, Patricia. Well, I love what you said in the book. You have this, I think it was the title of a section, of a passage, being scared of our own power. How can we transcend that? How can we become more comfortable with our own, not power, but empowerment? I like the word empowerment better than power in a way.
Right. It's really building the confidence within yourself. Because that's what begins to empower you. When you start to have control over your own life, when you feel comfortable with, that's empowerment. And that's what I meant by being powerful, or being empowered, because I needed to take control of my life and not allow everything else to control me. And once you can take those baby steps, and when I say build confidence, when you build confidence, even a little bit at a time, it tends to create more powerful feelings. It's like when you do something, you reach a goal and you celebrate yourself and go, oh my gosh, I did it. That builds confidence in you, which builds empowerment. When you feel empowered, you feel like you can do anything, and we can create those dreams. You can get to those goals that you've always wanted to do. So, it's empowerment with the, power and empowerment are kind of go together.
we have been educated in the way women, especially about the word power, meaning force, manipulation, that we try not to use it.
Well, and I agree with that. Just real quickly, that's totally not what I mean, because a lot of women always say, I don't want to be that bee, and there's nothing about that. It's about empowering yourself from within and being that power of so that your voice can be heard in a way that you're comfortable in. But there's so many women that hold on to their voice and they don't say things or do things, and then they lost their identity. And this is what we don't want. And we want you to define your own identity and be empowered to feel good about your life. So when you're on that dying bed, you can say, I did the best I could do, and I'm proud of myself. And not be that, I wish I shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Like I said before, that's a huge reference to me when you can say that. I don't regret anything. Yeah, I did what I could, right? Everything that I could.
Exactly.
I love that idea.
Every day we could just say, hey, I did the best I could today.
Yeah,
and that's an inner peace. That's a beautiful inner peace.
True, Patricia. Yeah. And like you keep saying that too, it's a reminder, a small change. It doesn't have to be anything big, but we can do that every single moment, even choosing better, because we do have a choice to choose something else. Yeah. But then we have to go deeper in the sense of knowing ourselves first.
We have to know ourselves, and that takes awareness and takes quietation
and
basically choosing. And I think a lot of women don't understand that they do have choices, because you could choose to do this or choose to do that, whether it's negative or positive. Because some people say, well, I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. It's whether you choose to choose that particular choice. But we always have a choice. And it's like to stay or to leave for women that are abused. It's a choice to stay. And it's a choice to leave.
It just reminded me of a conversation I had with somebody about abuse, women who have been, women and children, been abused. And then she called them victims. And I think I mentioned saying that I don't really like that word. I like the idea of being empowered enough to say, take responsibility. I'm not a victim, but I had a choice. And then there was like a big mess in a way, the conversation, because she disagreed with me in the sense that, no, you are a victim. We have to recognize that we have been victims. So I think we're just using words, but it might be also that some of us are in different stages of different states.
Totally, exactly. We're all in different states of our life as far as where we're learning, how we're changing. And you're right. I mean, some people would have called me a victim, or I thought maybe I was a victim back in the day, but it was a choice to do that. And then it was a choice also to recognize and take responsibility that I can choose to think differently.
Yes.
And instead of that, I can choose to be a thriver and not just a survivor.
Yes. Yeah. That's another word that I don't quite like. Yeah. Survivor and victim, both of them. Right. But empowered, that sounds wonderful. And
exactly.
I love your work because it seems like you focus on that. And also you're not afraid of using the word power, which is great. I'm still hesitant when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of it because it's something that's it's been pushed down on us for a lot of women that, again, like you mentioned earlier, that, that power is too much for a lot of women. Like that's too big for them. And they think that they have to be this big, big voice. And power can be subtle power, an inner power that's beauty, that's more about you being control of your life.
I can even think about the word freedom when it comes to that, because that's what it sounds like. I'm free. Yeah, it
is. It's freedom to be who you want, how you want. And if it's a loud voice, that's great. If that's what you choose, or it can be a soft voice. It can be anything you want. That's what power is. It's what you want. And, and not what somebody else tells you it is. And right now, everybody else has told us what power is. And so now we've had to use the word empowerment. But in reality, again, we go back to words, that it's how we perceive them and how we use them that defines us.
So it is redefining those words really for ourselves. I love that. Freedom, power, so we can just kind of play with it in a way.
Yeah. And it's continual. And I like to, people always ask me, well, how did you get where you are? I said, well, I'm not really where want to be yet. It's continual. It's I'm empowering myself every single day. I'm learning every single day. I'm growing every single day. In fact, if I don't, then I think I probably am dying, or dead, because I want to live and grow every single day. Because knowledge, I found, is really important. Knowledge is power. And the more I learn, the better I feel within.
So we're almost at the end, and I'll be asking you my final questions, but I wanted to read something that you have in your book, caught my attention. You say change is a process, often a messy one, but it is also a beautiful thing if you allow it to be. We are so afraid of change too. That's okay to be messy. That's funny that we sometimes resist to messiness. Yeah, that's part of change, isn't it?
It's part of change. And change is the only thing that is constant. And once we realize that change is constant every single day, it's in our lives, no matter how you believe it or not, there's some kind of change that makes you feel uncomfortable. But once you can learn and understand and look at the word in a different way, that change is beautiful, and embrace the change and make change your friend, then the resistance is it's easier to move forward, because we only hurt ourselves when we take that word change and we're like, get stubborn and we're stuck. We're like, no. In reality, if we allow ourselves to let go and say, okay, what does that change look like? What does that look like? Is it messy? Maybe it'll be messy for a bit, but could it be better? Yes, it might be even better. And if it's not, then I can go back, maybe to something a little bit different, because anytime you even go back to something, it'll be different, which will be change. So no matter what, but every single day is a minute, there's something changing.
Mm-hmm. So true. It sounds fun to me, this whole process, isn't it?
I find here's the thing, when you perceive it to be fun, it will be. And that's why you have to embrace it as your friend. It's like when you embrace change, or when you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's beautiful, because then you don't have any expectations. You're not worried about things. And really, life really goes well when it flows well, when we have that feeling of peace and everything. And change can be beautiful. Again, like I said in the book, but it can be messy if you let it. But, sometimes it gets a little messy, and then it opens up into be a beautiful thing. So just look beyond that, and look ahead of what the beautiful opportunities could be.
So we're almost at the end. Let me ask you, would you like to add anything, Patricia, or read a passage in your book before I ask you my final questions?
Yeah, I would love to read a passage in my book. It's actually about words matter, and because I believe in that. So I'll just read it real quickly here. My internal compass as to what was right had been muffled by so many opinions, I couldn't seem to figure out what it was that I believed. I took the information I was given from words and subsequent actions and formed stories to support my biases. Looking back, I endured quite a bit of mental and emotional chaos, what I now know to be a form of abuse. But growing up, it was simply all I knew. Often when we hear the word abuse, we think of broken bones and bruises, but mental abuse can be just as, if not more, detrimental long term. The incessant negative chatter leaves holes in the soul and becomes what I call a silent killer of the mind.
Thank you so much for your courage, for the compassionate work, generous and compassionate. I love the way you express your truth, Patricia.
Thank you very much.
And this sincere desire to help others is really beautiful.
Yes, it's important to me. It's something that's my third purpose, I guess, in life or career, you might say.
Yeah. So my final questions to you, how do you define success these days? What is to be successful to you?
Success for me is feeling peaceful within. That's simple. Again, I keep it simple. Success is not abundance monetarily, not abundance. I think it's when you feel an inner peace, which usually means that everything else is under control. That is successful. So when I have that inner peace, that means success to me. So every night before I go to bed, I'm like, do I feel peaceful? Did I do everything? Do I have everything I need? Am I grateful? And I can say yes, then I'm at peace. And that to me is a successful day.
And what was the hardest lesson to learn about yourself in life as of today?
That I wasn't perfect.
Oh God, every single one of us might relate to that one.
I guess maybe rephrase that, to admit that I was not perfect, to admit my negatives, to admit that I had some bad behaviors, to admit to myself that I was messed up. That was hard. But once I did, and I felt it, talked about it, even wrote it out, then like the bricks started coming off the shoulders, because I said, you know what? But that's my mess. And now I'm going to make that mess my message.
I'll make my mess my message. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That would be a wonderful title for a book.
I know, right?
Yeah, your next one. Let me know. Keep me updated. I love that, Patricia. Gosh, I never heard that one before. If you knew you would die soon, meaning leaving the body, would you make any change or do anything in a different way?
Today, no. I would do, I'm thankful for all the messes that I did have, because I don't believe I'd be where I am today without them. And I'm such in a place of peace that I could die tomorrow. And I've thought about this. Have I done and did everything, that I can? I've done the best I can today. And I tried to serve others well. And, I guess if there's only one thing if I could just get that one other person to be at peace, that would make me feel even better. So even after death, if that were to happen, that'd be great. But if I'm good. I'm good if I were to die today. Yes. I did everything I could.
And my last question is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure as of this moment?
That I got the most beautiful cat in the world.
I can imagine.
That makes me smile. Yeah. And I say that because she makes me smile. That I have my eyes to observe the world, that every day I get to see the beauty in it. And I think the other word I want to use is listening and listening to others and hearing them, because they need to be heard.
Thank you so much again, Patricia, for your message, for your wisdom, your presence, the work you do, and everything between. It can be felt. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to women.
And before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
Actually, the easiest and best place is to go to patricialove.com. That's where you can find my coaching services and along with my book.
Wonderful. I'll have the link on your podcast profile too. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too, Patricia. Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Patricia Love and her work, please visit patricialove.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.